Trick shot.
Oh my god.
Holy.
What up, you nerds? Fallout here, and today we are here to answer the question, is Stasis still good after the recent D2 patch? If you're unfamiliar, on March 23rd, Bingo put out the 3.1.1.1 patch, aka the Let's Nerf Stasis in PvP patch. I think a lot of players are completely unified on the idea that goddamn Stasis came into D2 extremely hot, and even though a few tweaks have already been made, more changes were definitely needed. With that in mind, I wanted to kind of get my hands in the dough, as it were, to feel out these changes both in private matches and in actual games of PvP. One change I won't go through from the patch notes today, though, are the changes made to the Mantle of Battle Harmony Warlock exotic armor. I made an entirely separate video the other day on that exotic armor and how good the numbers are, now that it officially works in PvP. If you're interested in that video, click the link in the top right corner now, otherwise, let's move on. Starting off with what I feel is the biggest change in the patch, the change to the Dusk Field Grenade. Dusk Field Grenades pre-patch were insane. You could literally yoink people around corners and it was almost a guaranteed kill each and every time. As we can read in the patch notes, Dusk Field Grenades got kicked hard in the crotch, and we can see the effects very clearly in-game. In private testing, I threw a grenade at my good buddy Ares and told him his job was to try and get out before getting frozen. He was able to do that each and every time without fail. No Icarus dashing or anything like that, he just literally walked out. He can do that without problem now because Dusk Fields take forever to freeze people. If you check this footage of me getting hit by a Dusk Field, you can see how long it now takes the slow counter to get to the point where I will become frozen. You have plenty of time to get out and thaw. Another thing, I don't know if it's a bug or not, but you can literally regen your health in a Dusk Field Grenade, even though the nade is very clearly eating away at your health bar. Happens every time. You can take chip damage from the grenade, but even still, you can regenerate your health while taking damage. Very odd. The suck range is way tinier than it was before. Again, to me, that's fine. Dusk Field Grenades are still going to be good in PvP, but now they are not an automatic engagement ender. You have to tag your enemy with the nade, then you have to kill them in the brief window of time where they are affected by the nade. The fact that they're slowed down and now have a penalty to their weapon accuracy is your window in. TLDR, still usable, but nowhere near as good as they were before. Next up, we have Glacier Grenades and crystals in general. Bungie toned down the shatter damage that you get from breaking a crystal near an enemy. Big change in game. I had my buddy get right up next to a Glacier Grenade point blank, and shatter diving it was not enough to lock up the one-hit kill. You can still get a one-hit kill, but you need to turn on Whisper of Fissures in order to do so, and they gotta be extremely close to the Glacier Grenade. Without Fissures turned on, they will live, guaranteed. Against a roaming super, Shatter Dive Glacier combo will do next to nothing. I'm talking laughably low damage output. They won't even blink. By turning Fissures on, you can do about half an enemy's health bar max depending on what super they're running. You should try to think of Glacier Nade diving now as kind of a finisher, a way to polish off enemies who are already weak, rather than a move where you can fly in unchallenged and lock up multiple kills with no care or effort. A closer rather than an opener. Speaking of Glacier Nade diving, let's talk real quick about Hunters. The Shatter Dive took a hit, but IMO, it's really not that noticeable unless you were a big Shatter Dive spammer before. The incoming damage reduction is gone, which will help to bring down diving shenanigans. The other change to Shatter Dive is the 4-second cooldown that Bungie added. I'm not sure why they didn't put the 4-second cooldown timer on your HUD. Kind of annoying. Add things to the HUD, bro. But yeah, now if you wanted to either A, use Shatter Dive to repeatedly 3-peek while getting a bit of DR, or B, jump really high for some mid-air hand cannon shooting, only to dive back down when the enemy began to return fire, these changes are going to prevent that. I think they probably could have added even more time to the Shatter Dive cooldown, but that's just one man's opinion. The bigger changes made to the Revenant Hunter overall were the ones they made to Withering Blade, aka the Shuriken, aka the Hunter melee attack. Shuriken used to be ridiculously good, 90 base damage overall with a high slow factor, which allowed you to freeze an enemy if you landed 2 shurikens back to back. With the patch though, no more of that shit. Damage has been cut down from 90 to 65, and the slow applied goes down from 60 to 40, meaning if I throw 2 shurikens at an enemy, they only get very slowed down, they no longer get frozen. That is actually a big change, because up until now, Revenant Hunters have had a very easy time getting people frozen in PvP. They would either do 1 dodge slowdown into 1 shuriken, 2 shurikens back to back, or 1 dusk field immediately into another shuriken. All of those options would immediately freeze people and do good damage. Now hunters have to use 3 abilities kind of all at once if they want to freeze an enemy. You could do 1 dodge and 2 shurikens that will freeze, or 1 dodge, 1 dusk field, and 1 shuriken. Technically, you could freeze an enemy with only 1 dusk field and 1 shuriken, but it depends on how much time the enemy stays in the suck zone of the dusk field. If they walk out right away, which again ain't hard to do, then that follow-up shuriken will not freeze. The TLDR there is that hunters are now going to have a hell of a time trying to freeze an enemy in PvP. You can still take advantage of the fact that slowing enemies on its own is pretty good. Remember, slowed enemies get a weapon accuracy penalty, and that is huge. Revenant Hunters will still take advantage of that, especially paired together with Durance, aka the ability to make your slow effect last longer, to win engagements. Bet on it. Oh, and one more thing about the shuriken, the ricochet target acquisition range was changed. If you have multiple enemies all within peeing distance of one another, yeah, a shuriken will bounce off all of them with all the tracking of Captain America's freaking shield. If they are relatively far away though, that shuriken ricochet won't be as generous as it once was. Important to remember. Okay, moving on. Behemoth Titans. Aside from the dusk field changes and aside from the Glacier nade changes, Behemoth Titans took a hit to their most powerful option, Glacial Quake. Pretty much everything about their god tier roaming super was toned down, and I would be shocked if I found a lot of non-Behemoth mains out there who thought the nerf was uncalled for. First of all, Glacial Quake will no longer freeze enemies on activation, meaning that if you want to use your super well, you have to actually pop it in advance and then run into the room and then break things. You can't panic pop in a tight room filled with dudes and breathe a sigh of relief because they all got auto-frozen. You actually have to think now about when and where you want to pop your super. Imagine thinking in PvP, what a concept. Glacial Quake also got their damage resist toned down from 60 to 50. I honestly don't know what the fuck Bungie was thinking giving Glacial Quake a 60% damage reduction with Beyond Light. Absolutely insane. No other super is that tanky, and Behemoth Titans were literally laughing off damage while pounding people. With the new change, you can actually team shot Titans more frequently and actually kill them with a sniper headshot. Imagine that. Here's a little exact data for you. With an adaptive frame sniper, any headshot will kill a Behemoth Titan at 6 resil or below. 6 resil and below will die with a headshot, and that's without Vorpal weapon on your gun, just a regular old adaptive frame weapon. Naturally, a Vorpal adaptive frame will kill any Glacial Quake Titan, and an aggressive frame sniper like the Frozen Orbit without Vorpal will also kill in one shot. Another change that affects Titans are the overall changes that were made to Whisper of Chains, aka the fragment that gives you damage resist by standing near a Glacier nade or crystal. While in your super, the DR was brought down from 25 to 5%, so Titans can still take advantage of that, but they can no longer turn on Whisper of Chains and fly around with Glacial Quake, feeling like they have God mode turned on. Also for the Titan, the energy cost of using Shiver Strike, aka flying around the map by meleeing in Glacial Quake, now will cost you more super energy. You can still fly around no problem, you are actually very mobile with Glacial Quake even now, but yeah, you can't spam it as much because your super meter will drain quicker by doing so. It'll also drain by using the flying melee and ground pound combo. Overall, Good changes to Glacial Quake. I went into Iron Banner as a Behemoth, and when I had the ability to pop my super, I still felt like I could pop off and bash through entire teams. I just actually had to think about it now. I found and team shot plenty of Titans while playing Banner. The overall damage resist reduction is definitely noticeable, and I think moving forward, more teams will actually have the confidence to try and gun down a Behemoth Titan rather than running away. Despite the nerf though, I still think for now that it's a top tier class. And with that, let's move on and talk about Warlocks now, who are probably pretty happy because as it were, they definitely got the best deal out of the patch. First up, Winter's Wrath, aka the Shadebinder roaming super. God damn, did they improve the tracking on those projectiles. They are aggressive AF. Now, I'm talking like Truth rocket launcher level aggressive. I found that before the patch, while Winter's Wrath was good at countering roaming supers, it was actually fairly easy to team shoot and shut down. While it doesn't have great mobility, the tracking is just so much better now. Check it out, even when a player jumps over my Wrath projectile, it literally just loops around through the air and comes right back. That really is the TLDR for Winter's Wrath. You're gonna notice more Warlocks using it in PvP because the tracking is superb, and I recommend you give it a try. Penumbral Blast, aka the Warlock melee, had its damage toned way down from 80 to 30. I still kinda doubt that Shadebinders are gonna complain though, because now that the range is good again, it still feels like a reliable tool in PvP. Ice Flare Bolts got changed as well, mainly a patch where they wouldn't try to repeatedly switch targets, and their tracking is a little better overall now. Ice Flare Bolts are kinda hard to take advantage of though, mainly because the Warlock melee and the Cold Snap Grenade both freeze for a very small amount of time. If you do get the frozen kill off though, Ice Flare definitely feels fairly reliable. Just remember that targets have to be kinda near one another, it can't go too far. Overall, for the Shadebinder, it feels better now, IMO, mainly due to the changes to Winter's Wrath. I actually feel damn powerful running the super. The movement still kind of blows, but what are you gonna do? There might be a few Behemoth mains and definitely a couple of Revenant mains out there who might try switching over to Shadebinder after the patch. Finally, we have changes to something non-ice related. Chaos Reach. Basically, Bungie has toned down the amount of super energy refunded when you cancel Chaos Reach early. How much did they tune it down? Well, I don't have any before footage, but it really doesn't feel like much of a change. After doing a few beam cancels out in the wild, the amount of super you wind up with naturally is tied to when in the beam you decide to shut it off. If you cancel the beam immediately, you're gonna have about 30-ish% remaining. Not bad at all. If you cancel it at about 50%, you're gonna wind up with about 20-ish% remaining. And if you cancel it around 25%, you're gonna wind up with maybe about 10% remaining. Overall, while a good change, I still think they might need to do more. Chaos Reach is a strong Trials build right now, and retaining up to 30% max of your super meter is pretty damn good. I fully expect to continue to run into meme beam Warlocks in Trials. And there you go, all the major PvP changes in the 3.1.1.1 patch. I think we're still gonna have our fair share of both Revenant Hunters, Behemoth Titans, and now Shadebinders running amok in PvP. However, the changes made, especially to the Dusk Field Grenade, are probably going to be very apparent over the weekend in Trials. TLDR, Stasis will still be good, especially in the hands of good players, but it did take a big hit, and some things that were very cheesy are now much less effective. Do me a favor, let me know down in the comment section how you feel about all of these changes. Were they enough, or do you think they could have went harder? Let me know. And that is it for today. Do me a favor and like today's video if you found it informative in any way, and click the subscribe button to help me with my oh so humble goal of one day becoming the sole ruler of the entire world. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.